Hi. I've got to warn you right now, this is not going to be as funny a video as I normally would because I'm talking about something that's a little bit more annoying, in my opinion. Um, I'm sure everybody has seen in the last week or so the Kanye West interviews. One on The Breakfast Club, I believe it was, and the other one was with Sway. And I have so many things that I want to say about these interviews and what Kanye said, but from a different perspective, more from a fashion industry perspective. Like what I think that the fashion industry is seeing in Kanye or not seeing in Kanye, so that I can just get off my chest. I mean, I don't care if people agree with me or don't agree with me. I was listening to the interviews and I just kept on thinking about it and thinking about it, and this is like 4 days later and I'm still thinking about it, and I decided I'm going to collect my thoughts and just say what I want to say about it because that's what I want to do. And besides, I'm calling myself a fashion freak. I mean, obviously, I'm into fashion, so I really want to talk about that. Let's see. He apparently he's mad because he didn't get his way in the fashion world, and he started ranting about it like he usually does. And let me start off by addressing some of the things non-fashion related that he said, and then I'll go into the fashion stuff right after that. But I want to get this out of the way first. He started off calling himself a visionary and alluded to the reason being that he uses non-hip-hop beats. I don't know where he's been for the last 20 years, but I believe Pharrell and NERD have used non-hip-hop beats. The Black Eyed Peas, pre-Fergie and post-Fergie, have used non-hip-hop beats. Technotronic, they were rapping over dance beats 20 years ago. So even if he's talking about the singing thing, like when he did, was it 808s and Heartbreak, or is it Heartbreak and 808s? I can't remember. But when he did that and he was doing his little auto-tune singing, he's not even the first singing rapper, because Ja Rule was singing, 15 years ago, and then ODB was singing 10 years before that. And if you really want to go back, Biz Markie was the first singing rapper that I could think of. There probably is one before him, but in my, I guess, life, I just remember Biz Markie singing. So I want to know what he did musically that he is, what do you call himself again? A visionary. Yeah, I would like to see that. I will give him credit for creativity when he did that short movie. I don't know if you saw, he did this 30-minute short movie about this half-bird lady that he had a big dinner for, and there was ballet dancers, and then they tried to serve a bird that was bigger than a turkey, and she freaked out and flew back up to the sun or something, and her wings burned off. I don't remember, but I thought that was very artistic, and he directed it himself. I will give him credit for that. But even that is not something that you were the first to do. I mean, it kind of reminded me a little bit of Tommy, or Jesus Christ Superstar, or there was somebody in the electric technicolor Dreamcoat, or is it rainbow technicolor? It was some type of rock musical. And even if you say, oh, well, this is a hip-hop musical, I remember MTV having Carmen, the hip-opera, years ago. So you weren't even the first to do that. Or you can even say R. Kelly was a pioneer in that, because I think he's the first person to make an R&B soap opera. You can't have that one either, Kanye. The next one, he says that he's comparing himself to Walt Disney. Oh, this one is really great. Walt Disney was fired for one of his early gigs at a newspaper for lacking imagination and creativity. Now, what he did was he went back to the drawing board and created other things. Kanye has had this one little hiccup in trying to do fashion, and rather than him going back to the drawing board and figuring out what he did wrong and changing that, he just keeps throwing temper tantrums, and he's giving me spoiled only child syndrome. And the reason why I say only child is because when you have siblings, no matter who you become, how rich you become, how powerful, your siblings are still going to remember you're that same person that peed their pants, in kindergarten, and they're going to tell you about it. And I think maybe he doesn't have siblings to check him. So that's why I'm getting this spoiled only child where everything I do is great because my mommy told me so, and he has never advanced beyond that. Going back to Walt Disney, everyone laughed at him when he said he was going to buy land in Florida and create, this amazing park. They looked at him like, you're buying swampland. What are you going to do with swampland? What he did with swampland was create the Magic Kingdom and the rest of Disney World. I think it was Magic Kingdom, Epcot. I don't remember if SeaWorld was part of it. I think SeaWorld is part of it. And then later on, they created Hollywood Studios. But even with Epcot, that was supposed to be experimental. I think it's experimental something community of tomorrow, where inside of that ball that you see, there was actually supposed to be a built-in living area, like apartments and green space and everything inside that ball. It was supposed to be probably 10 times or 20 times the size that it actually is. And he passed away before he was able to realize that dream. But anyways, my point is that he created something that did not exist prior to him. No, there was no Epcot prior to Walt Disney. There was no Walt Disney Pictures. There was no Disneyland. What has Kanye created that did not exist before he came around? I've yet to see it. I don't see it. Then this is the worst one. He compared himself to Steve Jobs. Just like Disney, Steve Jobs is a pioneer. He actually, one of the things that he developed was the GUI system, and GUI stands for Graphic User Interface. What that means is it's the icons that you see on your computer and the mouse that you use to click on those icons to make an application open. Before that system, and I'm old enough to remember this, shout out to Generation X, on the computer you would have to type in the name of the program that you wanted to run, and you'd have to key in the actual word run. So say Microsoft Office existed back then. I think back then we had WordPerfect, but you would write I think greater than sign, run, less than sign, Microsoft Office, enter, in order to get the program to open. What Steve Jobs and Apple did was create a mouse that you can maneuver. They created icons on the screen that do a shortcut to the program, so all you have to do is click on the icon and it opens. I don't think Kanye West has come up with any new technology that has revolutionized how we use anything in the world. And that's even before the iPod and the iPad and all that. But anyways, and even with the iPod, that actually was not, I believe that was not the first MP3 player. And when it came out, it was not the only one. But the thing that made the iPod take off was iTunes. Because you could just sync it like that. Whereas if you had a regular MP3 player, and you had a different type of music file system, you would have to individually load those on there. And you couldn't really make playlists that well. Whereas with the iPod, everything was easy. So that's why it took over. People are always going to go for the easiest option. So that's what happened. And yeah, so that's about your whole, what did he call himself? He called himself a revolutionary, which in order to be a revolutionary, you have to revolutionize something, which you haven't done. And he also mentioned, let me go back. About the revolutionary thing. Like I said, you have to have revolutionized something in order to call yourself a revolutionary. And what I thought about in the same realm is like when Muhammad Ali said that he was the greatest. At that time, he was undefeated. So he literally was the greatest in his realm. When Michael Jackson said that he was the king of pop, at that time, he still is the king of pop. He was the one that had the most, number ones in pop music. The one whose concerts were the most talked about. The one who, if he wore something, everybody wore it. Back in the 80s. In the 90s, not so much. When he came out with Bad, people were like, yeah, I'm not really going to wear that. But, point being, they have the receipts to back up what they're saying. I don't see Kanye West's receipts. I just see him talking. So, with that said, he... No. With that said, I'll just get back into the fashion thing because I could go on and on about him for probably another 10 minutes, but I don't want to make this video super long. So I'm going to go right into the fashion thing. He said that he failed to get a deal with Nike because he couldn't get distribution because, quote, black people don't have distribution. And I have a very serious problem with people saying that they couldn't do something because they're black. Because my problem with it is that when actual real incidences of discrimination happen or racial bias happen, then people don't believe them because they hear people like you trying to use that as an excuse and you turn it into the boy who cried wolf. I feel like don't say that unless it is absolutely, the truth and not just a cop-out. Because with you, it's a cop-out. And I know you're really mad about the Nike thing because you claim you couldn't get a deal with Nike and Drake just got one. So I know you're really mad. Anyways, I don't even understand why he was trying to go through Nike to begin with, because Nike sneakers cost from $3 to $5 to manufacture and ship to the United States. You said you lost $13 million. With that kind of money, you could have ordered your own sneakers, called them Kanyeezys, had them manufactured in China, because guess what? Those Chinese factories, they don't care who's paying them. If you go over there and you cut a deal to have them make your shoes, all they want to know is when you're going to pay us. And it gets done. So I don't know what you're talking about that. There's even companies, even if you didn't want to go yourself, there's companies that act as liaisons between designers and factories and distributors. But I'm going to come back to the distribution thing later. I just realized why he didn't know about those things. Those are things that you learn in design school. We all know he's a college dropout. So, back on the whole thing about they didn't take you seriously because, quote, you're black. I'm going to tell you why they didn't take you seriously. We're going to take inventory. You mentioned Tom Ford. Let's go over Tom Ford's resume a little bit. He is a graduate of the Parsons School of Design in Paris. He started designing women's clothes for Gucci in 1990. He became the creative director of Gucci in 1994. That's 20 years in the industry. You mentioned Marc Jacobs. He also is a graduate of Parsons Design School, but earlier than that, 1984, he worked at Perry Ellis right out of school. He became the creative director for Louis Vuitton in the 90s, and he has 30 years in the industry. I was just wondering, where is your experience? Where are your design drawings? Do you know how to sew? Do you know about fit? Do you know about clothing construction? Because if you don't know how to sew and you don't know about clothing construction, it's very difficult for you to determine whether your clothes are of quality. And if you don't know about fit or correcting fit, it's very difficult for you to have garments made, because obviously you're not sewing yourself, but have garments made that are able to move with you and, move the way a human would move, like sitting down, walking, running, that type of thing. And you know why it's very important to know these things? Because they keep things like your pants ripping off your ass on stage from happening. Moving on. Just wanted to add that even though those gentlemen were, formerly educated, that does not mean that you cannot self-educate. And a perfect example of that is Daymond John. If you don't know who Daymond John is, he is the founder, president, and CEO of FUBU, which stands for Us By Us. Now, he does not have a college education, but he did have the know-how. He actually started FUBU by sewing his own t-shirts, his own hats, and putting the FUBU embroidery on them. And he would sell them out of the back of a van in New York. And remember how I said I was going to talk about distribution? Oh, by the way, Daymond John also has 20 years in the industry. But remember how I said I was going to talk about distribution? Do you know how Daymond John's got his first distributor? His mother put an ad in the New York Times looking for a distributor, and that's how he got one. So, Kanye's full of shit. But we all know this. What's the next thing? Oh, something that Daymond John said, because I became familiar with him in business school, because they have you study people who have been successful in their industries. So we watched a few videos of Daymond John's. We watched him on Shark's Tank and read some of his things. And he always says the same thing about, if you're not formally educated, to find a mentor, and especially a mentor that's in the industry you want to go into, that is successful in it, and you learn from that person. Another ignorant thing that Kanye said was he doesn't listen to anyone who's older than him. That takes away the mentor thing. So you're a college dropout, you don't need education, you don't need a mentor, and you want to go into an industry that you don't know anything about because you volunteered at Louis Vuitton for 6 months. So, you also said that you wanted your brand to have the same level of recognition, and you wanted it at the same level as a Louis Vuitton or Gucci. And here's the thing. Just jotted some things down just so I can remember the exact numbers. Gucci was founded in 1921. Prada was founded in 1913. Chanel in 1909 rather. And Louis Vuitton was founded in 1854. That's over 100 years. How in the hell did you think that you were going to start a brand that would have the same recognition and the same level of, the only word I can use is recognition, the same level of recognition as a company that's been around for over 100 years? You really deserve a nigga, are you crazy? You really do. But here's the thing that I have completely worked it down to. I feel what it is that you want to shine, but you don't want to grind. You're asking people, like you mentioned, let me see, Marc Jacobs, and who else you said wouldn't let you in the door? Oh, Tom Ford. You're asking these people to let you in the door, and you've only been doing this for... Let me put myself in their place. Oh, I've been doing this for 20, 30 years. Let me let Kanye West have the exact same things that I have, that I've worked for and worked my ass off for the last 20 and 30 years. And you're surprised that they gave you a nigga fuck you? I would too. I seriously would too. Do I have anything else? No. That's about it. That's all the reasoning that I have for why Kanye got treated the way he did by the fashion industry. Because he's an ignorant asshole with a lot of money. And I think he thought that just having money was going to take the place of having experience, knowledge. I can't with him. I just can't. I'm done. I'm just glad that's off my chest, because it was bothering me. And I'm a baby in this industry. I practically just started. And I've been doing this 7 years, and I know for myself that you're not even going to be taken seriously until you have 20 years in, really. Because that's just the type of industry that it is. Yes, you can have like a line where you are actually licensing your name out, like the Kardashians do. They're not really designing anything themselves. They just license their name, and other people design and do the clothes. But they're not doing too great with that, because I saw their line. I forgot what store it was in, but I went to try on one of the jackets. I thought it was so cute. I went to put it on, and the lining in the arm was twisted, and I couldn't even put my arm through. I'm like, this is sewn wrong. How is this at a department store? I could see, you find something like that in TJ Maxx or Marshalls, because that's where they put irregular clothes. But this was like in a Macy's. It was either Macy's or Dillard's, one of the department stores down here in Florida. And I was just shocked that they would have garments that are irregular and sewn wrong in a regular department store that you literally can't put on because it's sewn wrong. How do you put that even up? Anyways, I'm going off on a tangent. Kanye, get your life. That's all I gotta say.